I had spent weeks planning Dad's 70th birthday. Weeks. From the cake to the guest list, the decorations to the old photo album I'd spent countless hours assembling. Nothing was left to chance. I even tracked down his favorite whiskey for the toast. This day was supposed to be special, a rare moment of warmth in a family that hadn't seen much of it lately. But the truth? My family was fractured, and I had been the one holding it together. I'd sacrificed my career, my life outside of this house, to take care of Dad. It hadn't been easy, but it was my responsibility. My younger brother, Darren, had climbed the corporate ladder, too busy for family. My older sister, Lisa, lived out of state, contributing about as much as a ghost. Anne Meredith, my wife, she didn't get it. She'd never get it. Every conversation with her ended in passive-aggressive jabs about how I was stuck in the past, how my sacrifice was ruining our future. She couldn't understand why I'd given up everything for Dad. Today, though, I pushed all that aside. This birthday had to be perfect. The house was buzzing with activity as guests began to trickle in. Meredith barely lifted a finger. Her attitude was cold, dismissive even, but I didn't care. I could handle it. I was doing this for Dad. When he walked in, his smile lit up the room. The party began, and for a moment, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this would bring us all together. Maybe this birthday would remind everyone of what mattered. But as the night wore on, I noticed Darren getting antsy. I saw him scanning the room like he was waiting for the right moment to make his move. And when he stood up to give his toast, my gut twisted. I expected a warm, heartfelt moment. But Darren, looking completely out of place, clinked his glass, cleared his throat, and instead of a tribute to Dad, he started talking about the house. He went on about how Dad was getting too old to take care of it, how the upkeep was a financial burden. And then he hit me with the bombshell. He was worried about Dad's safety with the stairs. That's why, Darren continued, his voice colder than I'd ever heard. It's time for Charles to move into a high-end retirement home. I felt the room spin. My stomach dropped. Dad's eyes were wide with confusion, and I could see the confusion turning to hurt. And then came the real punch to the gut. I've already been granted power of attorney, Darren said. I'm selling the house. Meredith nodded in agreement, her face emotionless. It was as if the ground had been pulled out from under me. I had been the one to care for Dad, me. But Darren and Meredith had been scheming behind my back for months. I didn't know what to say, what to feel. Betrayal flooded me like a tidal wave. The applause from the guests felt like nails scraping down my spine. Dad didn't even understand what was happening. He was lost. I couldn't sit there anymore. I stood up abruptly, muttered an excuse, and stormed out onto the porch, my heart pounding. I needed air. I needed space. I needed to think. I looked up at the stars, but all I could think about was how my family had taken everything from me. My wife, my brother, all of it. I was done. I pushed through the kitchen door, out onto the porch, gasping for air. My mind was reeling. I felt like I was going to suffocate under the weight of it all. Darren's announcement, the applause that followed, the smug look on Meredith's face as she nodded along. My whole body felt like it was on fire, but the chill of the night air helped ground me. I pulled out my phone, hands shaking. I needed to call someone who might understand, someone who might help me make sense of this mess. Mike. Mike had been my friend for years, and he was the kind of guy who knew his way around legal issues. If anyone could figure out how to stop this, it was him. I dialed his number, waiting for the ringing to stop. The seconds felt like hours. "Mike," I said when he picked up, "it's Greg. I need your help. Something just happened." There was a long pause on the other end. "What's going on?" I took a deep breath. "Darren just stood up at Dad's birthday dinner and announced that he's selling the house. He said he has power of attorney for Dad, and that it's time to move him into a retirement home. I don't know what the hell just happened, Mike." "Jesus," Mike muttered. "You've got to be kidding me. He's selling the house? He's using power of attorney to do this?" I leaned against the railing, closing my eyes. "Yeah, Anne Meredith's right there, agreeing with him. She's been going along with this whole thing like it's just some business deal. I've been taking care of Dad for years, Mike. I've sacrificed everything. And now they're just going to take it all away. They're going to take Dad's house, his legacy." Mike sighed. "Okay, listen. You need to stay calm. First things first, we've got to get the legal paperwork. If Darren's really got power of attorney, there's a chance it can be challenged. I don't even know if I can do this, I said, the weight of it all threatening to crush me. I've been so caught up in trying to take care of Dad. I didn't even see this coming. You were too close to it, Mike said. I know it's hard, but you've got to fight back. They can't just do this without consequences. I nodded, swallowing hard. I know, I just can't believe they'd do this to me, to Dad. Another beat of silence passed before Mike spoke again. What about Meredith? Is she in on this too? I closed my eyes tighter. Yeah, I should have known. She's been so distant the last few months. Every time I tried to talk to her about the house, she'd dismiss me, tell me I needed to move on. Hell, she even talked about putting Dad in a nursing home like it was the easiest solution in the world. Now, I see what she meant. Mike's voice was low, careful. Greg, listen to me. You've got to get your hands on any documents or communications you can. If she's been planning this behind your back, you need evidence. I've got to look, I said, my voice barely a whisper. I've got to go through everything. I hung up the phone and stood there for a minute, staring into the darkness. The air felt colder now, but it didn't matter. I had to get back inside. I had to figure out what came next. I couldn't lose Dad's house. I couldn't lose everything I'd fought for. But something gnawed at the back of my mind, a sick feeling in my gut that I couldn't shake. Meredith's behavior over the last few months, it all clicked now. The strange conversations she had with Darren when I wasn't around. The way she'd push me to make decisions I wasn't comfortable with, telling me it was for the best. She'd been playing me the same way Darren had. I felt like an idiot for not seeing it sooner. I paced the porch, phone still gripped in my hand, as Mike's words echoed in my head. Fight back. Mike, I'm furious, I said, feeling the heat rise in my chest again. Darren and Meredith have been at this for months, maybe longer. I can't believe I didn't see it. Slow down, Mike urged. We'll figure this out. First things first, you need to get your hands on everything you can. Any documents, any emails, anything that proves they've been planning this. I slammed my fist against the railing, the noise cutting through the night. I've been blind, Mike. Every time Darren came over, every time I asked Meredith about him, she'd brush it off, like it was nothing. But now, looking back, those damn conversations, I should have known. Mike's voice softened. Greg, this isn't your fault. You're dealing with a pretty tight game from them, but you've got a chance to fight back. You've just got to keep your head. I rubbed my face, trying to calm the rush of anger. I thought I was the one holding this family together. All these years, I've been the one making sacrifices, taking care of Dad, and they're just going to take it all? For what? A payday? Listen to me, Mike said, his tone hard now. You have a legal right to protect your father's property, and if they've been stealing from him, if they've been scheming behind your back, you can stop them. But you need proof, Greg. You need to gather everything you can. I nodded, even though I knew Mike couldn't see it. I've got some things, I said, swallowing down the bitter taste in my throat. A few weeks ago, I found some financial records, papers stashed away in Dad's office, stuff I shouldn't have seen. But I knew something was wrong. It's all about selling the house, Darren and Meredith talking about strategies for Dad's future. Damn it, I should have looked deeper. Don't beat yourself up, Mike said quickly. If you've got those documents, they could be a game changer. Get me copies of everything you can find, Greg. If this is as bad as it sounds, we'll put a stop to it. I stared out into the dark yard, the weight of everything pressing down on me. I don't care what it takes, I said, my voice hard now. I'm not letting them take the house. It's not just the property. It's Dad's whole life, everything he worked for. It's our family's history. I heard Mike exhale on the other end of the line. I get it, but this won't be easy. Darren's a corporate shark. He's got connections, and with that power of attorney, he's got a strong legal position. You need to be prepared for a fight. I ground my teeth together. I'm ready. I've been ready for years, Mike. I've been playing this damn game, trying to keep everything together, but I can't let them take it all. I hung up and let the silence settle around me for a few moments. I was burning with anger, with the sting of betrayal, but beneath that, there was something else, a feeling of humiliation. How could I have been so stupid, so blind? Darren had used Dad's vulnerability like a pawn, and Meredith had let him. Worse, she'd been part of it all along. I squeezed my eyes shut, the reality of it all crashing down. How many times had Meredith pushed me to let go of the house? How many times had she made it sound like it was the only way forward, the only solution? She'd talk about how much easier things would be without the weight of the house, without the burden of Dad's care. I felt sick to my stomach as I remembered her words. How could I have thought she was just trying to help? She'd been pushing this agenda for months, telling me it would be better for everyone if Dad was in a high-end retirement home. It wasn't for Dad's well-being, it was for hers, and for Darren's. I wasn't just losing a house, I was losing my place in this family. I headed back inside, determined. I couldn't let this stand. They might have had the power of attorney, but they didn't have the right. Not in my eyes, I'd make sure of that. But then, as I walked past the living room, something caught my eye. My heart skipped a beat. There, on the coffee table, was a folder. I stopped. Something about it looked off. I knew Dad hadn't put it there. It had to have been one of them. I walked over, my hands already reaching for it. As soon as I flipped it open, I knew I'd found something big. Inside were more financial documents, ones I hadn't seen before. But there was one that stood out. A deed to the house, signed by Dad, but dated just a few weeks ago. A deed transferring ownership to Darren. I felt the world shift beneath me. This wasn't just about power of attorney. They'd already started their plan, and I hadn't even known. I felt a cold rage settle deep in my bones. They'd been playing this game long before tonight. I wasn't just going to fight for the house anymore. I was going to fight for everything. And this was just the beginning. I spent the next few days digging through everything I could find. The folder with the deed was just the beginning. I knew I needed more to stop Darren. I couldn't let him walk away with everything like this. I pulled out Dad's bank statements and started combing through the transactions. What I found sent a cold shock through me. There were multiple withdrawals, some for $5,000, some for $10,000, all marked as property management fees. The vague descriptions made it impossible to track exactly where the money was going, but one thing was clear. These sums were not being used for anything legitimate. Darren had been siphoning money from Dad's account for months, his own father's money. The realization hit hard. This wasn't just about selling the house. This was a full-on scheme, and Dad was nothing more than a pawn in it. I pulled out my phone, hands shaking. I called a few of Dad's old business partners, hoping to get any insight they might have. One of them, Jim, had worked with Dad for years and was familiar with the family's financials. "Hey, Jim," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I need to ask you something about Darren. Has he been handling any of Dad's finances lately?" There was a pause, then Jim's voice, low and cautious. "Well, yeah. He's been saying he's taking care of things for Charles, been managing his accounts, checking on bills. But honestly, Greg, I've had a bad feeling about it. Darren's been downplaying things, making it sound like Charles is in worse shape than he is. He's been talking about the house, too, about how it's too much for Charles to keep up. I could feel my blood pressure rising. What do you mean downplaying? What's he telling people?" Jim's voice tightened. "He's been exaggerating Charles's condition, talking about how Charles is forgetting things, can't manage on his own. It's all been a slow build-up, you know? Like, he's laying the groundwork for this move to a retirement home." I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. "And the house? Is he pushing to sell?" "I wouldn't be surprised, Greg. I'm telling you, something's off. Keep your eye on him. Something's not right with Darren handling all this." I hung up and sat there, staring at the bank statement spread out on the kitchen table. Everything was starting to fit together. The withdrawals, the exaggerated stories, the way Darren had manipulated everyone, including me. He was using Dad's vulnerability, and Meredith was right there with him. I didn't waste time. I started going through Meredith's texts, hoping to find something, anything that would tie her into this plan. It didn't take long. A few messages from last month caught my eye, the ones she'd sent while Darren was in town. The first one read, "The house needs to go. We can't keep up with everything. We have to get Charles to agree." Another one from 2 weeks ago. "I've been talking to Darren about the retirement home. He's already got everything lined up. Once Charles is settled, it'll be easier to sell." The sick feeling in my stomach deepened. Meredith wasn't just indifferent to what was happening. She was actively helping Darren pull this off. She'd known exactly what he was doing, and had been playing me the whole time. My fists clenched. I wasn't going to let them do this. I called Mike again, needing his advice before I made my next move. "Mike, I've got everything. The financials, the texts, the bank withdrawals. I've got enough to prove they've been plotting behind my back. Now what?" Mike paused. "Okay, you've got the ammunition. The next step is meeting with an elder care attorney and a financial advisor. You need to make sure you can protect your dad's estate, especially with that power of attorney in play. We're not just talking about stopping a sale anymore. We're talking about securing his future and taking action against both Darren and Meredith. I agreed, trying to suppress the anger gnawing at me. I'll set up a meeting. But Mike, I don't want just to stop the sale. I want to expose what they've been doing. This goes deeper than property taxes or house upkeep. They've been stealing from Dad for months. Mike's voice softened. I know, Greg. But right now, your focus has to be on getting everything legally sound. Once we have that, you can make your move. I hung up, still seething, but determined. I had one more thing to do. I headed to the office where the last of the documents sat in a drawer I hadn't checked. As I sifted through more paperwork, I found it. A legal form, an amended power of attorney signed by Dad. It was dated just 2 weeks ago. It was different than the one Darren had been waving around. This one named me as the sole decision-maker for my father's health and finances. I stared at it for a long time, my heart pounding in my chest. This was the piece of evidence I needed. Darren's power of attorney was a fraud, and now I had the leverage I needed to put an end to this once and for all. I wasn't just going to protect Dad's house. I was going to take down everything Darren and Meredith had been building behind my back. I walked back into the house, the folder of evidence clutched in my hand. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of control, but it wasn't relief. Not yet. My chest was tight, my mind buzzing with everything I was about to do. Darren and Meredith were sitting in the living room, their conversation hushed, but the tension between them was palpable. The way they exchanged glances, like they were trying to keep something hidden, it made my blood boil. It was time to end this. I had everything I needed to crush their plan. I took a deep breath, walking into the room with purpose. Neither of them looked up immediately, but I could feel their eyes on me when I sat down. Silence hung thick in the air. I didn't give them time to speak. I slammed the folder onto the coffee table. I've got everything, I said, my voice steady but sharp. The bank records, the texts, the financial documents, all of it. You two thought you could get away with this, but I'm done letting you play me. Darren's eyes narrowed. Greg, No, I cut him off, leaning forward. You don't get to talk. Not yet. You've been stealing from Dad, Darren, for months, taking money out of his account like it's yours, using vague terms like property management fees. You've been lying to everyone, claiming that Dad's in worse shape than he really is, so you could sell the house. And now, I find out you've already signed paperwork to transfer ownership to you? How long have you been planning this, huh? His face twisted in irritation, but I wasn't done. And you, Meredith, I said, turning my eyes to her. You're not innocent in this either. I've got your texts, messages between you and Darren, talking about getting Dad into a retirement home and selling the house. Don't even try to deny it. You've been in on this from the start. You've been pushing me to put Dad in a nursing home, like it was the only option, like it would make things easier. Meredith shifted uncomfortably, her eyes flicking to Darren before looking back at me. She opened her mouth, but I didn't give her a chance. I've been taking care of Dad for years. I've sacrificed everything. And you two, behind my back, were plotting to strip him of everything. The house, his legacy, his future. Do you even care about him at all? Meredith's face flushed, and Darren stood up, his fists clenched. Greg, this is for Dad's own good. We're trying to help him. You're too emotionally attached to the house to see it. No, I shot back, standing too. You're trying to help yourselves. You want the house so you can sell it and line your pockets. You've been using Dad's condition to manipulate him. Don't try to turn this into something noble. This isn't about Dad's well-being. It's about you two getting your hands on his money. Darren took a step toward me, his jaw tight. You have no idea what you're talking about. This is all for Charles. Cut the crap, Darren, I said, cutting him off. I've seen the financials, the money you've been withdrawing, the way you've been playing with numbers to make it look like Dad can't take care of himself anymore. I know what you've been doing. You've been lying, stealing, and now you're trying to push me out so you can get your hands on everything. It stops here. The room was silent for a moment. The tension between us crackled, but I stood firm. I wasn't backing down anymore. I'm done letting you two ruin everything, I said, my voice low but firm. I want both of you out of this house, now. You've made your intentions clear, and I'm not going to let you keep interfering with Dad's life. You don't get to make decisions for him, not anymore. Meredith opened her mouth to protest, but Darren was already on the move. He glared at me, his face red with anger. You think you've won, Greg? You have no idea what you're up against. You really think you can just stop this? I stepped forward, getting right in his face. I don't need to win anything, Darren. You've already lost. I've got everything I need to make sure this house stays with Dad. And now, I'm taking control of his health and his finances. You're done here. Darren's eyes narrowed. For a split second, I saw something dark in them. Anger, frustration, and maybe even a little fear. But then he straightened up, his tone hardening. "This isn't over, Greg," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "You'll regret this. You think you got the power now, but you're just getting started. You'll see how far I'm willing to go." I didn't flinch. "I'm not scared of you anymore, Darren. You've already shown your true colors. Now you can get the hell out of my father's life." Meredith stood up, but she didn't speak. She just looked between Darren and me, her face pale. She knew the game was over, but she wasn't going down without a fight. They didn't say another word as they left. And I watched them go, my heart pounding, my mind still racing. It felt like I had finally taken back control, but something in the pit of my stomach told me this was just the beginning. Darren might have walked out, but I knew he wouldn't stay down for long. I wasn't done yet. After the confrontation, things moved fast. Mike helped me file an emergency injunction to block the sale of the house. The legal paperwork was messy, like trying to piece together a broken glass vase. But it was clear Darren's power of attorney was no longer valid. The documents I had, the bank records, the health assessment I was arranging, everything was adding up. I had a case. The first step was getting Dad's health reassessed. I didn't trust the reports Darren had gotten, the ones that painted Dad as some dementia-ridden shell of a man. I knew my father better than that. I arranged for a private evaluation with a specialist, someone who could give an unbiased professional opinion on Charles's actual condition. The results came back quickly. Dad was not suffering from any form of dementia. He wasn't even in a state that warranted a nursing home. The narrative Darren had tried to push fell apart completely. There was no medical basis for his decisions. The specialist's report showed Dad was cognitively intact. That was a huge blow to Darren's whole plan. When I told Dad about the results, his confusion was palpable. He didn't understand all the legal talk, and I didn't expect him to. But I reassured him, holding his hand and looking him in the eye. "Dad, I'm going to take care of everything," I told him. "No one's going to take the house. No one's going to make decisions for you. You don't have to worry about a thing." I'd never been this sure of anything in my life. Dad just nodded slowly, his face still showing that distant confusion, but I could tell he trusted me. His hand tightened around mine. "I know, Greg. I know you'll take care of it." I felt a surge of gratitude toward him, toward everything he'd done for me, even if I hadn't appreciated it enough growing up. This was my chance to give him the security he deserved. Once I had the health assessment in hand, I arranged for a new healthcare proxy to be signed, naming me as his sole decision-maker. It wasn't an easy conversation. Dad didn't fully grasp what it meant, but he signed it without hesitation. The trust he had in me clear despite the confusion in his eyes. Meanwhile, Meredith had been eerily quiet since the confrontation. She hadn't said a word to me. It was like she was slowly retreating into herself, staying out of sight. I didn't care about her silence. I didn't need her apologies or excuses anymore. I had no interest in hearing her try to justify her role in all of this. The damage was done, and I wasn't looking to fix it. Not anymore. Darren, on the other hand, wasn't going down quietly. He called me a few days later, his voice dripping with venom. "You've made a huge mistake, Greg. You think you've won, but this is far from over. I'm going to take legal action against you. I'm not letting you ruin everything." I wasn't surprised. The threat was as empty as his promises to help Dad. It was clear now that Darren had been using his father's vulnerability as a tool for his own gain. But he'd lost his influence over me. He didn't scare me anymore. "Go ahead, Darren," I said, my tone flat. "You can try, but you've already lost. Everything you've done is coming to light, and it's only a matter of time before the courts agree. You're out of the picture." There was a long silence on the other end. Then he muttered, "You think you can just take it all, don't you?" "I'm not taking anything. I'm protecting what's ours. What's Dad's?" I replied. "You've had your shot. Now you're done." When I hung up, a strange calm settled over me. It felt like a weight had been lifted. This wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about taking back control, about putting Dad's well-being first, about setting things right for once. I spent the next few days focusing on Dad's care. It was simple stuff, making sure his medications were in order, taking him for walks around the yard, just being there for him. It felt like the start of something new, a chance to rebuild what had been broken. But I knew the legal battle was far from over. Darren wouldn't back off. But I was prepared. For the first time, I felt like I was on the winning side. Meredith, however, still hadn't spoken to me. It was clear she was staying out of the house as much as possible, avoiding any confrontation. But one night, as I sat with Dad, Meredith came by, standing in the doorway. Her eyes were puffy, red from crying. I was wrong, Greg," she said, her voice shaky. "I should have never let it get this far." I looked at her, but there was no sympathy left in me. "It's too late for apologies, Meredith. You made your choices. You and Darren. You were both in on this from the start." She nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. "I never meant for it to hurt you. I didn't know what else to do. I thought it was for the best." "Maybe you should have thought harder," I said, the bitterness slipping into my voice. "It's not just about what's best for us. It's about what's best for Dad." She didn't argue. She didn't even try to explain anymore. She just stood there, ashamed, her eyes avoiding mine. "Goodbye, Meredith," I said, standing up. "You're not part of this anymore." She nodded again and turned to leave, and this time there was no turning back. The house was finally mine again. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was doing right by Dad. Months passed, and things were quieter. The house, the one I'd fought so hard to protect, still stood strong. It wasn't just a building anymore. It was a symbol of the fight I'd won, of the family I'd saved, of the strength I'd discovered in myself. The legal proceedings were still dragging on, a constant reminder of everything I'd been through. Darren, unsurprisingly, had made no effort to reach out. He kept his distance, refusing to accept responsibility for what he'd done. Part of me expected that. He'd always been the one to take what he could, never willing to face the consequences of his actions. Meredith, though, had tried to apologize. She reached out a few times, but I never responded the way she wanted. She wanted to talk, to make things right, to somehow explain away what she'd done. But I wasn't interested, not anymore. There was nothing she could say that would change what had happened, and I had no interest in revisiting the wreckage of our marriage. I was learning to let go of the anger, but that didn't mean I had to forgive her. Not now. Maybe not ever. Instead, I focused on Dad. I found a rhythm with him. There were days when he still seemed a little lost, a little confused, but I could tell he was happier, healthier. I'd learned to be present for him in ways I hadn't been before. I didn't just care for him. I lived with him, in the same house, in the same world, sharing the small moments that mattered. We watched TV together, talked about old stories from when I was a kid, and spent quiet evenings in the backyard. Nothing spectacular, but it was enough. I also started seeing a therapist, someone to help me process everything. There were so many things I hadn't dealt with. The weight of what I'd done for Dad, the toll it had taken on me, the guilt I still carried about the family I'd lost along the way. The therapist helped me see that I hadn't done anything wrong by standing up for what was right, by fighting for Dad, for myself. But I still had a long way to go. I knew I was never going to be the same after everything. But maybe that was the point. I wasn't supposed to be. I wasn't supposed to go back to what was easy or familiar or broken. I was building something new. The house felt different now. It wasn't just a place to hide or a place to escape. It was mine, ours, Dad's, and mine. It felt like a victory every time I walked through the door, a reminder that sometimes the hardest fights were the ones that mattered most. I'd found a balance, helping Dad, living my life, moving forward. It wasn't always easy and it wasn't perfect, but it was mine. And for the first time in years, I felt a sense of peace. Darren and Meredith were gone, and though they left a mess behind, I was learning to clean it up piece by piece. With every decision I made, every day I spent with Dad, I was putting the past in its place. And the house? It stood as a testament to everything I'd fought for. The things worth keeping. The things worth saving.